Hi, and welcome to Build Series. I'm your host, Lindsay Parker, and today I'll be joined by country music superstar and ACM Award nominee Jake Owen. Jake's music has over 2.4 billion streams with numerous #1 country hits, and the multi-platinum entertainer is here today to talk about his newly released album, Greetings from Jake Owen. Do you really have a dog named Waylon?
No, I have a dog named Merle.
That's cool.
Kind of as cool as Waylon, I guess.
It's very cool. So I want to talk to you about another single to start. I love that song, but I really want to talk to you about another song from Greetings from Jake, which is I Was Jack and You Were Diane.
Yeah.
Because we were talking a little bit backstage, and we're both big 80s music fans, and I'm a huge fan of the original Jack and Diane by John Mellencamp, or actually I believe he was John Cougar at that time. So I want to find out how you interpolated that song. I believe John Cougar Mellencamp gave his blessing to that song.
He did, and I thought that was really cool of him, especially for the validity for me to be able to do that, because I definitely think really the purpose of that song was when I was making my album, I was talking to the guys at the label about the kinds of songs that I wanted to record, and I referenced Jack and Diane being a song that I think really kind of exemplifies not only a song that feels amazing, but tells a story of like young love and growing up and in the heartland of America, you know, and so I was explaining to the guys at the label, I said, those are the kind of songs I want to fill my record with. And when I left that day, Craig Wiseman, who was one of the greatest songwriters ever, and he the next day sent me, he's like, what do you think of this? And it was like a tribute to John Mellencamp, and it was about when I was Jack and you were Diane, when we played that part. And I think a lot of us, you know, growing up in the wonderful United States of America, like, everybody at some point has put themselves in the shoes of either Jack or Diane, and so it was a cool thing to be able to do that, and for him to say yes on it and give us a thumbs up was a big deal, because I think there was the chance of a lot of people that loved that original song going, what are you doing? Why would you ruin it? So, and there's still some of those people, but it worked out well.
Is there any chance the two of you might collaborate, maybe perform at the ACMs or something and do that?
No.
No chance?
No, probably
John,
not.
if you're watching, come on, make it happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, it'd be cool or whatever, but I watched a documentary on John, and he lays it out there that he's not really a people person. You know, he's not, and I appreciate. I like that. It's one thing to not be a people person and not tell people about it. It's another one to just like get it out there and be like, oh, cool, leave that guy alone. But he said when he lived here in New York, he said it was uncomfortable for him when he became famous, because he just always played music because of the love of it, and then all of a sudden his music became bigger than him, really, you know. And so he's like, I remember walking out of my apartment or whatever in New York City, and people were just coming up to me and wanting autographs, and he said, I never knew how to handle that, and that's pretty interesting.
So you're a young guy, but you do like a lot of music from the 80s and from before your time. And when we were chatting backstage, you were telling me about how your early memories of the music you got into, whether it was The Cure or Van Halen or John Mellencamp. And I would love for you to share the story of that, of how you, your memories of that time.
Yeah, I think all of us kind of remember what it was that got us into music. And my older brother, Steve, I don't even think he realizes to this day how much he meant to me as a kid growing up. I was 11. He was 11 years older than me, so he would have been 22. He was coming home from Florida State University. He had this blue and white, like the two-tone Chevy Blazer, and he had an amazing stereo system in it. And he was introducing me to everybody from Depeche Mode, Def Leppard, Van Halen. I mean, all the way to like Run DMC and you know, we talked earlier, I mean, whether it's anything all over the map, really. I mean, Otis Redding, I remember him playing for me. And so he really is responsible for allowing me to hear music that I would have never heard from my parents. And it also made me want to be cool, like my brother. And I always appreciate him, because I don't think in those moments when we were riding around in his car when I was 11 and he was 22, that he was aware at all of the impact he had on me, not only as a brother, but just as the musical influence he has. So I always like to make sure that I reference Steve, because he's a big part of my life.
Do you have any memories of specific songs or albums that he played in that truck that really had an impact on what you do now, or made you want to do music?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, everything from I remember the first album I bought on a CD was the Shake Your Moneymaker Black Crowes record, and they're from Atlanta, they're a Georgia band, and it's kind of had what I loved about it was growing up in Florida, where Florida is famous for Tom Petty, Leonard Skinner, and so I loved that Southern rock. I always did, and so to me, Black Crowes kind of had that influence of Southern rock with an amazing singer and entertainer like Chris Robinson. So it's funny because these days they say, "Well, you sing country music, so why do you reference these other people all the time?" And I think you can pull a little bit of something from everyone. I mean, I love rap music. I love it.
What rap do you like?
All of it. I mean, I really do. Yeah, I'm one of these weird people that just if someone would look in what I listen to, they would really think I have issues because I mean, I'll go from like Chet Baker, jazz artist. I don't know how many of you guys know Chet Baker, but unbelievable trumpet player and even cooler singer. He's passed away now, but I think. Sorry, Chet, if you're still here. But amazing, and what I loved about him is that like when he sings, he sang like he was playing the trumpet, like he would sing notes like a trumpet line, and so I learned from that. And then I learned from like guys like Merle Haggard, I grew up with a low voice, and I was always a little embarrassed to sing because every time I sang it was low. But guys like Def Leppard and David Lee Roth and Van Halen, I mean, they were singing these soaring. And I was like, I kind of want to do that too. So we were actually just walking out here, and we were talking about songs I've written. I wrote a song called All Over the Map with a couple of friends of mine that came out on the road with me to write songs. And they watched my show one night, and the next day we hadn't written anything yet, but they wanted to see what I did before we kind of wrote something. And the guy walked on my bus. He's like, man, you're like all over the map. Like one minute you were playing Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash, the next minute you were playing Snoop Dogg. And so we wrote a song called All Over the Map, and it kind of really describes my life and who I am and my really bad attention deficit disorder.
What would be the most surprising album you own or in your iTunes that your fans or maybe someone who doesn't know that much about you would be surprised that you're a fan of?
Probably anything that I listen to and everything. I mean, there's the stuff that everybody else would listen to as well. I mean, I'll listen to Drake one minute, but then I'll listen to J.D. Crowe and the New South Bluegrass Revival. It's so weird, but I just love music. I love the way it makes me feel. I love the way that there's different music for different moments, and I don't know.
Are you a Nipsey Hussle fan? I wasn't planning to ask you that, but since you say you're into rap,
yeah, no, I definitely I can't say that I celebrate his catalog of music, but I appreciate anybody that's got something to say and a different way of saying it, and it's really sad to think that things like that are happening every day in our world and have for a very long time, and so it's a bummer to lose somebody that is influential to a lot of people, and kids. And
on a happier note, you've been mentioning David Lee Roth, you mentioned Van Halen, and I believe you're working on can you give some news about a particular Van Halen inspired thing you're working on?
Well, I wrote a song speaking of my brother and all those years of him playing me that kind of music. The album, I didn't really finish telling you this backstage, but he gave me the 1984 Van Halen album when I was like 12, and I loved it because it had like Hot for Teacher on it, had Jump on it, Panama, Drop Dead Legs, had all, I can name you all of them. And my mom found that CD in my room, and she broke it because she said, "You're not going to listen to that devil music." And I said, "Devil music?" She's like, "There's an angel on the front of the album smoking a cigarette." And then David Lee Roth actually came out with an album on his own called A Little Ain't Enough, and it had two devils facing the opposite way on it, and I had that one too, and they broke it. And yeah, so whatever, that's what parents do, right? I mean, but I laugh thinking about that my mom was so naive to think that I mean, Van Halen is the farthest from Satan worshiping music that you could possibly have.
They're pretty upbeat.
But in my parents' mind, they thought it was bad for me,
so
but worked out all right.
So tell me about this song. Are you able to say anything about it yet?
See, I have attention deficit disorder.
right.
You asked me a question, I answered it with
I
something
like
you
that
didn't ask.
answer. No apologies necessary. That was a good
Thanks for getting me
detail.
back on track there. Yeah, I might try to finish this song. I don't know. I wrote it with the idea of like, it's called "Blame It on Van Halen." It's about a girl and how wild she is, and the fact that it's not her father's fault or it's not anyone else's fault, but other than probably ought to blame her wild ways on Van Halen.
Maybe your parents were right. They are a bad influence.
Well, it's a bad influence. They're a good influence.
They're a good influence.
Depends on what you what you're being influenced to do.
Well, back to the album Greens from Jake. You were mentioning Florida, and I see we're looking at the album art here, and I believe there's sort of Easter eggs in this, or all the artwork sort of references things from your childhood in Florida. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, where Jared and I, my twin brothers here, where we grew up in Vero Beach, Florida, is a coastal town, and it's, again, something that most people wouldn't think, why are you singing country music? You grew up on the beach. I love the stories of country music, and I love the way you can tell stories in different ways, from love to loss to happiness, and really that's what my album, all my albums have always kind of felt that way. But this one in particular is a new phase in my life. I was at a record company, Sony, for 12 years and made the switch and went over to Big Loud. And when I went there, as I said, it was a new phase of my life. And I feel like in any phase of someone's life and the journey of their life where they are, it's interesting and a good thing to check in with people and let them know, how you're doing. And not just musically, like just in life in general. If you're taking a trip, back in the day, you would send a postcard or something, right? And where I grew up in Vero, we have a bunch of orange groves down there and growers and stands on the side of the road that would give you fresh orange juice if you stopped and buy some oranges or grapefruits or whatever. And so you got some oranges in there and stuff, but it's kind of my way of, it's like my postcard. You used to see these postcards that would say, "Greetings from Vero Beach, Florida," or "Greetings from Florida." And so this was kind of my way of, after a couple years of not putting out any music, this is like greetings from me and where I am in my life right now. And the songs on this album really describe kind of where I've been, where I am, and where I want to go. And I honestly, you hear artists today that this is my favorite record I've ever made, but it really is. This is by far the most proud I've ever been of a record, and it feels really good.
So I'm looking at the N here. It says Honky Tonk.
Yeah, that's the Honky Tonk from Honky Tonk Central in Nashville, which is a bar right on Broadway. I don't know how many of y'all have ever been to Nashville, Tennessee, but it's a lot of fun. If you haven't gone, you should go. But yeah, so each one of these letters, has something within it that just kind of means something to me, and something along. There's a golf course in the middle of an A. I went to college to play golf. I was supposed to. I wasn't good enough. And it's okay. I feel okay about it. Okay. Don't feel bad.
Well, I mentioned the N because we saw Down to the Honky Tonk, which was at the beginning of this show. And I'm wondering if you have any fun stories about your honky tonk playing days.
Oh, yeah.
Share.
I've got tons of stories from the years of playing on bar stools. And I'll never forget one time, in college especially, people would pack in this bar that I would play, and it was just me and acoustic, and people would get really close dancing and partying, and my mic stand would sit there with my mic on it. And it would happen multiple times a night where I'd be singing, some girl or something or guy that's too wasted or drunk would fall into my mic stand, and when that happens, you're singing, your mic just goes tunk right in your face.
Ouch.
Multiple times. So
Never break a tooth or anything?
Never broke a tooth. No, never did that. But I'm finally at a place in life where I don't have people bumping into my mic stand. I got a little bit of a barrier now.
Congratulations on that. There's another song on the album. We mentioned that John Mellencamp, it's sort of a collaboration in a way, but you collaborated with Kid Rock on this album.
Yeah.
Please tell me he's a character. He's like a descendant of David Lee Roth in a way.
He really is.
Tell me about that.
He's awesome. He's done so many things, and most importantly, I think what's important to know about Kid Rock is that he's a good guy. He's a good person. He does a lot of great things for people, and we all have personas as artists, and I think it's okay to be the rock star 1 minute and then kind of check out from it sometimes. And I admire those that, are like, I always wonder, did David Bowie go to the grocery store looking like David Bowie? Or does Lady Gaga go to the grocery store with a half of a mask on? I don't know. But Kid Rock is like 1 minute you see him and he's just Kid Rock, and then the next minute he's just like the guy next door, and we play pickleball together.
What is that?
Pickleball is like it's small tennis, but you play with a wiffle ball and a paddle. He's very good. I've never beat him, and that's weird because I'm really competitive, and he beats me all the time. And anyways, after getting beat numerous times in pickleball, and he's got a great court at his house, I recorded this song called "The Grass Is Always Greener" in somebody else's joint. And it's kind of, the play on words of the fact that, we are always going to want a little bit more than we got. That's just the way the big world turns. And the lyrics are riding that stock market rocket, or if you got holes in your pocket. There's just one thing I've learned, that if you're mad at the man or you're mad at the hand you've been dealt, y'all, you're missing the point, because the grass is always greener in somebody else's joint. And when I go over and play with Kid Rock and pickleball, I have a nice place. I'm proud of it. I've worked hard for it, but like he's got way cooler stuff than I do. And so sometimes it's that feeling of, and I just kind of used it as a broad spectrum for all of us, that no matter where you are in life, it's in our nature to sometimes want a little more than we have. And to me, I think what makes us human and brings us back to earth is when we just realize that we're content with the things that we do have, stop focusing on what we don't. And so there I am on a song with Kid Rock. I asked him if he'd want to do it with me, and he did. And it's a really cool, because it's a cool song. Kid Rock's a rockin' dude, but together we kind of were able to do a fun song that actually talks about life. And I think that's cool. I love being able to tell stories through my music, and it's not just a song with a melody. I really believe that kind of song is really how I live my life. I try to not always focus on the things I don't have and focus on the things that I do.
Now, Kid Rock has straddled the worlds very well between rap and country. He kind of started off as a straight-on rap guy and then moved into country. You're a country guy, but you've mentioned you have a fondness for hip-hop. Would you ever do a collaboration, kind of like Tim McGraw did with Nelly back in the day? And who would the rapper you do a collaboration? Florida Georgia Line have done this. Like, who would you do it with?
Yeah, anyone, really. I love Outkast from Atlanta. Anyone, really. I actually just finished putting a verse on this new Lil Nas X song, the Old Town Road. I don't know if you've heard that song. Want to ride my horse to the Old Town Road. Anyway, and I'm just at a place in life where I just don't, I care what my audience thinks. I care that they're pleased with what I'm doing. But outside of that, like people that hate on music and have closed minds, I don't pay attention to people like that. Because there's lots of folks that love country music, but they'll say, how can you possibly be country and you're doing a rap song? You're doing this or that. And so I just don't pay attention to people like that, because I do it for, honestly, it brings me joy to be able to do things that are different. And I feel like it's like anything. Art is music, and music is art. And art is very subjective. And I think we all, there's probably, when you look around this room, people have pictures, let's call it painting, artwork, whatever, hanging in your home. And somebody might walk by that and say, I would never, ever hang that in my house. But people live with that every day because that's what they like. And that's what music is. There's people that'll live with it and they like it. And then there's ones that would say, I would never do that. So I don't know what we were talking about.
No, I like that answer. About you doing stuff with rappers. That's what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah. Me rapping. That's what we were talking about.
Not necessarily you rapping, but collaborating.
Yeah.
And so,
no,
yeah, Outkast, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I can remember every word to every rap song known to man. Except
really? Should I test you now?
But I lost my debit card last night. You know what I mean? I can't remember where I put my car keys, but I can remember every word to Notorious B.I.G. Big Papa.
You want to drop a few lines?
I mean, if you'd like me to, I could. Are you serious?
Yeah. Go for it.
What song do you want?
Big Papa.
Oh, I love it when you call me Big Papa. To the honeys getting money, playing us all like dummies. Yeah, I could. I mean, he had some great songs. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper Heavy D up in the limousine, hanging pictures on my wall every Saturday. Rap attack, Mr. Magic Bonnie Ma. I let my tape drop. Tell my tape. Should I keep going?
Yes. As long as you want.
I'll stop there.
Okay, that was great. I'm going to give you applause for that.
Yeah. Thank you very little.
So we have going to go to audience questions, but on the subject, I'm sorry, that was amazing. On the subject of, it was. On the subject of you branching out, I do want to ask you, you're making your acting debut alongside some pretty heavy hitters. I wrote it down. Jason Segel, Dakota Johnson, and Casey Affleck. And you at top billing. Yeah. What is this movie you're going to be in?
It's a beautiful movie. It's a beautiful film called The Friend. And it stemmed from an article that was written in Esquire magazine by a man named Matthew Teague, who, it's a true story. He wrote it. He started to write this story about his wife, and she was diagnosed with cancer, and it was a long journey, and it was terminal cancer. So there's sadness to the story, but what's the beautiful part about it as well is that the movie itself, as I said, is called The Friend, because as he was writing this about his wife and her journey through this, he realized that the story became more about his friend, Dane, that left everything. They knew this friend, Dane, from college. So he left everything that he was work, his place, everything in New Orleans to come to Fairhope, Alabama and take care of them while they were going through this and help with the kids and make sandwiches. And so it's a story really about friendship and what a friend can do for you in the toughest moments in life. And so in the film, I am a friend of the friend. But it was really, really cool because I never thought I'd ever make a movie. You know, I never thought I'd rap. But things
you never
happen.
know where life's gonna take.
Well, as I said earlier, like I don't ever close doors. I'm not closed-minded. So I always believe that if you leave doors open, you never know who's gonna walk through that or what's gonna come through it. And I was really proud to be a part of the film. And as you said, Dakota Johnson was in 50 Shades of Grey, and Casey Affleck, what a great guy and an amazing actor. And that was what was funny, is that I've never taken acting lessons or anything. And I had a few parts in this movie where it was just myself and like Casey Affleck in a heated moment. And I kind of looking at this guy while we're doing it. I'm thinking, shit, this is Casey Affleck, like right in front of me right now. And it was just interesting because the only time I'd seen him before was on a movie. And the next thing I know, I was right there in the middle of it. So those kind of things to me are still new, and I'm not necessarily like comfortable with that yet. Although people that work with me said I did an okay job. So
I'm sure you did. You're an actor, a rapper, a country singer, golfer,
father,
pickleball player, father, and you have are you about to have another?
Yeah.
Not you.
You were like, yeah, no, not me really.
Well, congratulations on that.
Impossible.
We are running out of time, and I want to make sure we get to a Twitter question, some audience questions. So I'm going to read this one here from Rachel Abel 23. This album has a different feel that I love and seems more authentic to you. What do you feel was the biggest inspiration for that change in making this album?
Okay, great question. I don't know if I fully understand the change, because I don't think I've ever changed my music. I just think I've changed as a human being, and I think we all do that. And I think that's the beauty of making music and making albums, is that I can look back at the albums that I've made and listen to them, and I know exactly where I was in those moments, just personally, and why I wanted to record those types of songs. So this album, as I mentioned earlier, it's where I am in life and where I want to go and where I've been, and it's my checking in to say hello.
Awesome. We have a couple questions from the audience.
Hi, Jake. How's it going?
That was a cool entrance.
Okay. So I was very curious to know what song or album really resonated for you that made you think like, oh, I really want to do this. Like, I want to, put my stuff out there and stuff.
So many. I mean, I think kind of covered that today. There's been so many that have I can't just pick one, but
you got to pick one.
I have to pick one.
Like one of the first that you.
I have to pick one album.
Well, you don't have to do anything.
This game is not fun.
I'd like you to pick one.
I love Van Morrison. I think Van Morrison which is a long way from Snoop Dogg, but I just love the sounds of those kinds of records and the easy listening side of it. I love music that you can put on and listen to, and it's kind of pleasant to your ear. And so that was James Taylor, that kind of stuff. I'm not even answering your question the right way, am I?
Yes, you.
Fine as a bride. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks. And we got time for one more question. Come on up.
What's up, bro?
Hey, how's it going? I was wondering, what's the most challenging part of your songwriting process?
Probably just gathering my thoughts as I have been trying to do this whole interview. I really, seriously, like, there's days where I will be sitting down, I'll have an idea that'll pop in my head. And that's really what it is, I think, sometimes, is somebody will say something in conversation. I think anyone that's a songwriter, you're constantly listening to people that you're having conversations with. And because you're just waiting for somebody to say something where you're like, ooh, that's a song. I'm going to write that song. And so I do that a lot. But then I'll be writing and I'll be like, squirrel. And I just put my guitar down for the next 4 days and come back to it. But you seem pretty fired up about my answer.
He's just listening very intently about your process. Well,
Yeah.
I could listen to you all day, rap or talk, but we are running out of time. I want to thank you so much for coming in. It was wonderful to talk to you on stage and off.
Well,
and congratulations on the new album.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Thank y'all.